What's good, Commanders fans? Just wanted to do my yearly free agents that the Commanders may target, that they may be interested in. Of course, this is players that I feel like that they may have interest in, and that guys that I feel like they want to go after, that they should go after. And then I'm gonna name some guys that I would probably stay away from. So you look at the free agent wide receiver list. Of course, De'Ami Brown's a free agent. Noah Brown. We have some in-house guys. James Crowder's a free agent. OZ's a free agent, and I already talked about those guys yesterday. But we're looking at the outside guys that we feel that can really help and upgrade this roster. We really, really have to help out JD5. We got to get him. We have to get him more talent. You got to get him more receiver talent. You got to help him out. Not only helping out Jaden, but helping Terry out. Give him a legitimate wide receiver number 2. Throughout Terry's career, he really hasn't had a legitimate wide receiver number 2. Or if you want to match him with a 1A, 1B type of receiver, I think the only guy that would provide you that in free agency would be T. Higgins. T. Higgins really is a wide receiver number 2, but he's a top flight wide receiver. He's probably the best wide receiver number 2 in the league. If you want to argue that next to Jamar Chase, I think it's pretty safe to say he is the best wide receiver number 2, and he's capable of being a receiver number 1. For sure. I mean, he had the 3 touchdown game against the Broncos where he went crazy in that game. When I saw that game, I was like, you gotta make a move for it. He had 11 catches for 131 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Broncos in a big game where they still didn't make the playoffs, but that was basically like a playoff atmosphere type of game against the Broncos with the overtime as well. And he showed up in that game. And when he's healthy, man, he's a darn good player. That's just the question mark there. So I do want to look up the game log for him as well and just see how many games he's missed over the years. And I don't think he's a super injury-prone guy, but you look at some of the years. So he played 12 games in 2024, 12 games in 2023, 16 games in 2022, 14 games in 2021, 16 games in 2020. So the narrative that he's super injury-prone is not necessarily true. Has he missed time? Yes, but he's not necessarily injury-prone. He had 10 touchdowns in 2024 in 12 games. Touchdown machine. So imagine Terry getting 13 touchdowns and then the guy next to him getting 10 touchdowns on the other side, T. Higgins. I mean, you just wouldn't be able to take him away at all. And it would be scary for the NFC East. Imagine giving Jaden that many weapons. Imagine giving Jaden that many weapons. That would just be nasty for the league. It would be nasty. 73 catches, 911 yards. He's had 2 1,000-yard seasons. He had 74 catches for 1,091 yards in 2021. 2022, he has 74 catches for 1,029 yards. Now, the biggest thing for T. Higgins is the money. The Patriots already said there's rumors and reports, which probably is true because they want to help out their rookie quarterback in Drake May, which is understandable. So they already said they're ready and prepared to make him the highest paid receiver in the league, which I think is a little too much. I don't know if Adam's going to do all that and make him that. I don't necessarily agree with making him the highest paid. Like make him, because the highest paid receiver in the league is Justin Jefferson with $35 million per year. So paying T. Higgins that much money and not extending Terry would kind of be disrespectful to Terry McLaurin after Terry McLaurin just had an all-pro season like he did. And T. Higgins being paid more than A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, guys like that, even being paid more than, honestly, Terry, in my opinion, is a little too much. Terry's getting $23 million. I get it. So you look at T. Higgins, you look at the age, too. He still is going into his prime. He is 26 years old, former second-round pick as well out of Clemson. He has a lot left. And he's 6'4", 219. We talk about receivers with height, right? That's something that fans and subscribers talk about all the time. I'm not gung-ho on getting like a big 6'5", 6'6", 6'4" receiver. I think the game has changed where you can win without having a 6'3", 6'4" physical big receiver like Randy Moss, like back 10 years ago, where Julio Jones, guys like that. That's really the guys like that dominated the league. Nowadays it's more like guys like Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, who's 5'11", 6 feet, or like top 10 receivers in the league. So. But T. Higgins, yes, I would definitely throw a bag at T. Like the money that I'd be comfortable with giving him, looking at the other receiver contracts. I think anything where Brandon Ayuk got 30 mil, which I think is too much for him. So T's getting more than 30 mil. Like he's getting that. Amon-Ra St. Brown 30 mil per year, AJ Brown 32 mil per year, CeeDee Lamb 34. He's probably gonna get around what AJ Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown are gonna get. And we have the money to do it, so we cannot be cheap. You have to help your young rookie quarterback while he's not on a big-time contract. So you have to maximize and capitalize that. You really do. So T. Higgins, he is wide receiver target number 1. We'll sit down with him. Hopefully he has a meeting with us. And we can have that conversation with them. The Patriots are going to have that conversation. And if what Adam Schefter said is true, where players want to come here and come to Washington because they love the culture here, I think that will be the first guy that we'll see that with. I don't know that he will be the first guy that we see that with in this 2025 offseason. We'll see if that's true. And I still think if we don't get T. Higgins, I still think it's true. Like other guys are going to want to come here clearly that I'm going to name on this list. Wide receivers. We're just strictly focused on wide receivers. You look at Luther Burden in the draft, and all he does is comment on Jaden Daniels' Instagram. Like he loves himself some Jaden Daniels. Any post that Jaden Daniels puts up, Luther Burden is commenting under that post. So there's guys in the draft that want to come here. Of course, they don't have the choice to come here, but that just shows you that people want to play here. People want to play here. That's the point of it all. So T. Higgins is a dog, man. Heck of a player. Terry would be our 1A. He'd be our 1B for sure. And, honestly, this offseason is going to be tailored towards beating some of the teams that we're going to play twice a year, like the Eagles. Quinyon Mitchell, if they want to just stick Quinyon on Terry, go ahead and put Cooper DeJean on T. Higgins. Go ahead and put Darius Slay on T. Higgins and see what happens. See how long of a day it's going to be if we don't fumble the football. See how long of a day it's going to be if y'all try to do that again. So that T. Higgins is definitely number one. I know some people are iffy on T. Higgins, but I think if you really want to maximize on this, and it's not crazy to say anymore. If you want to maximize on the Super Bowl window with Jaden, make some shake. You look what the Texans did with C.J. Stroud. They bought a Stephon Diggs last year. They bought in guys to help him. And I don't think we necessarily have to trade for a receiver. We can just sign somebody to help out. And you still have to draft a receiver too. Like I said, Luther Burden may be there at pick number 29. You just never know. We'll see. With the guy out of Ohio State, Emeka. I'm just going to say his name is Emeka. I can't pronounce his last name. All right. Or McMillan out of Arizona. He probably won't be at 29. But like I said, let's just focus on the free agents. All right. So rapid fire here with free agents that are going to be available. So next on the list is Stephon Diggs. I would say no to Stephon Diggs, 31 years old, been in the league for 10 years. Just a lot of bags with him. He's coming off an ACL injury. I don't know if you guys have heard some of the stories off the field with him, like DJ Academics. I hate to bring this up, but he's had some relationships with Cardi B and Young Miami and other lady rappers and stuff like that. And it kind of doesn't matter, but it does matter who you associate yourself with. And then there's the rumor about him getting in a fight with somebody on an elevator. And not only just the off the field stuff, but him being a malcontent with the Vikings, him being a malcontent with the Bills. I don't want him blowing up on the sidelines yelling at Jaden Daniels. That's one thing I don't. I don't want a wide receiver yelling at our quarterback. That's one thing. You don't fool with Jaden Daniels. You just don't. I love the respect that Terry has for Jaden. Like, they talk it out. If Terry's not getting the football, Jaden in the mic up, he's like, hey, stay in it at 17, stay in at 17. Where Stephon Diggs, he may blow up on the sidelines and pout and cry. Like, we just don't have time for that. And that's just not our culture, honestly. I get not every wide receiver is going to be a Boy Scout. I understand that. But seeing what we've seen from Stephon Diggs, just the play is not worth the complaint. And this is just not. It's not. And I get he's from Maryland with a good counsel. I love the local stories. He went to Maryland University as well. Maryland guy, born and raised in the DMV. So I get it. But it would have to be a 1-year deal at best. It would have to be a 1-year deal at best. He might be on the Odell Beckham path, honestly, in his career. We'll see what happens. T. Higgins, already talked about him. Keenan Allen, just a little too old for me. 32 years old, still had a solid season with 700 receiving yards. I know some people want me to put up pictures and stuff. Honestly, I'm not going to put up pictures. I probably won't. I might. We'll see when I edit it. But, if you don't know who T. Higgins and Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen, some of these guys are, you just got to watch a little bit more football. No knock to you guys, or anybody, but it is what it is on that. Keenan Allen, quickly, I thought he played well for the most part. He did have some injuries throughout the season. Caleb Williams just didn't have a good season, in my opinion. He was seeing ghosts out there, and he had to share targets with DJ Moore. He had to share targets with Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet. So there's a lot of guys he had to share targets with. But I thought Keenan Allen had a solid season. So I would not bring him in, though. Amari Cooper, yes, I would bring him in. Amari Cooper, 30 years old, on a 1-year deal. That's it, on a 1-year deal. Bring in Amari Cooper and draft a receiver. That's if you don't get T. Higgins. Amari Cooper had a solid season. Even though Deshaun Watson was awful, like, he still had some good games last year. Now, with the Bills, didn't really happen too much. But honestly, if you talk about culture, I think Amari Cooper really fits the guy that we're kind of looking for. A guy that's just not going to pout on the sideline and just blow up on Jaden if he doesn't get the football, which we shouldn't have that problem anyway. But even the year before, when Joe Flacco was the quarterback for Cleveland, for the Browns, he had 1,250 yards and 78 catches with Cleveland in 2023. 2022, he had 78 catches for 1,160 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was good with Dallas, too. Last year, with 2 teams combined, he played in 14 games. He had 44 catches for 547 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, the drops are concerning. Amari Cooper, he will drop a pass. And I know players are human, so they drop passes, but there are some times where he has some really, really, really bad concentration drops. So that's my biggest concern with Amari Cooper. But look at some of the stats from that 2023 season, man. Like, he had a 200-yard game with Joe Flacco. Like, he was a dog, man. And I still think he has some left in the tank. Like, I think he really could help this team for sure as a wide receiver number 2. He definitely would be an upgrade over some of the guys that we already have, but that are free agents like Noah Brown and De'Ami Brown. Yeah, against the Texans on December 24th last year, he had 11 catches for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. With the Bears, against the Bears in 2023, he had 4 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. Against the Jaguars, he had 7 catches for 77 yards. Against the Cardinals, they won 27-0. He had 5 catches for 139 yards and a touchdown. Against San Fran, he had 4 catches and 108 yards. And then against Tennessee, he had 7 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. That's in the 2023 season. He had how many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games over 100 receiving yards. He had a 98-yard game against the Ravens, an 89-yard game against the Seahawks, and he had 90 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're talking about 8 games with 90 yards or more. And we talk about Terry never having a 150-yard game in his career. Like, Amari Cooper's doing that. He's doing that. So I really think he would be a really good wide receiver number 2. I get he's 30 years old, another Alabama guy. So Amari Cooper, he's on the top of my list. And you can disagree with him if you want. You can put that in the comments. I get it. But I'm really high on Amari Cooper. I've always been an Amari Cooper fan, even when he was with Dallas. I've always liked Amari Cooper. He's a nuanced route runner. Chris Godwin, who's I'm really questionable. I loved Chris Godwin. I'm a big Chris Godwin fan. If Chris Godwin plays in the playoffs against us, it would be a different ballgame. I think we still win, but it would be tougher to guard Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin was the better receiver in that first game, believe it or not. When we lost to them, Mike Evans had the 2 touchdowns, but Chris Godwin had a bunch of catches for like 87 yards. He had that screen catch where he scampered up the field and broke tackles. So when we couldn't tackle in the first game of the year, he was cooking Mikey Sanders still, and he baptized Mikey, who Mikey has gotten way better throughout the season, but he baptized Mikey in Mikey's first game of his career. Chris Godwin's a dog. He can play slot. He can play outside. Darn good player. I get it. He just came off that nasty injury where you can argue if Roquan Smith kind of rolled up on his ankle. But Chris Godwin's had a heck of a career, man. And the Buccaneers, I know they want to bring him back, but they probably won't be able to. We'll see. He had 5 touchdowns before he got hurt. He had 50 catches for 576 yards in 7 games. He was on pace for 1,000 yards very easily, on pace for 10 touchdowns very easily as well this past season. The season before that, he's had 4 1,000-yard seasons in his career. Doesn't get a lot of touchdowns. That's the only thing. But hey, we have Jaden to get there in the red zone. We have other guys that can punch it in the red zone that we will have at the running back position next year. 17 games in 2023, 15 games in 2022, 14 games in 2021. So he has not really been injury prone or had a lot of injuries until this past season. So that's something to think about too. Like, people who are iffy about him because of the injury he just had, I would kind of push back on that because he really hasn't been injury prone for the most part. How much will he command on the market? We'll see. What is his market value? What is his contract right now? Where is he at? Chris Godwin is getting paid $20 million per year. In my opinion, I would pay him less than $20 million per year. I'd probably come around at like 15 mil for Chris Godwin. Maybe like 18 million dollars per year. That's what I would come in for Chris Godwin. Brandon Cooks, no. Deontay Johnson, no. So this is more rapid fire here. Brandon Cooks, no. Deontay Johnson, no. Mike Williams, who was on the Jets and on the Steelers and who was on the Chargers before, no. Robert Woods, Houston, no. Hollywood Brown, maybe, only because of the connection with Cliff Kingsbury. He was injured last year. He's a speedy receiver. We do need another speed demon to take the top off the defense. So Marquise Hollywood Brown is somebody that I actually would consider. 27 years old, played with the Chiefs. The couple of games that he played with the Chiefs, he actually has been somewhat impactful. We'll see what he does in the Super Bowl. And you can use him around on end arounds, jet sweeps, maybe as a punt returner. He has some problems with drops with the Ravens. I've seen that before with Lamar Jackson where he dropped a bunch of passes. So Hollywood Brown is somebody that I kind of would consider on a cheap deal. DeAndre Hopkins, like I said, 1-year deal maybe at best. He has a connection with Cliff Kingsbury, playing with the Chiefs right now in the Super Bowl. DeAndre Hopkins is a dog, man. He's tough. That's one thing I'll say, but he's tough. I think people would appreciate DeAndre Hopkins if we signed him here for a 1-year deal. He's kind of similar to Anquan Bolden, where he's just tough, where he'll take a hit across the middle. He's just a tough guy. He plays mean. He's a culture guy where he doesn't complain a lot either. So that's what I like about DeAndre Hopkins. We'll always remember what he did to D'Angelo Hall on Hard Knocks. Darius Slayton, no. But if you want to bring him in as your fifth receiver to replace like De'Ami or somebody like that, I wouldn't replace De'Ami with Darius Slayton. But Darius Slayton is actually not terrible. 28 years old. KJ Osborne, no. Demarcus Robinson, who's had a couple good games with the Rams, no. Nelson Aguilar, no. Ashton Dulin, no. DJ Chark, who I did like back in the day, no. Mac Hollins, who's weird with the Buffalo Bills wearing that Elmo mask or costume, no. Tyler Boyd, Tennessee, no. Zach Pascal, no. Zay Jones, no. Elijah Moore, somebody to consider, 24 years old, had 500 receiving yards last year. When Jameis Winston came in, Elijah Moore had some good games. And I liked Elijah Moore coming out of Ole Miss. I did. I liked him coming out. So I would somewhat consider him on a cheap deal. Braxton Berrios, no. Nick Westbrook-Akina, who is a unrestricted free agent, actually had a solid season. He had 2 touchdowns against us. I remember that. So I'm a little iffy. He's got some speed to him, 27 years old. I would consider him a little bit. Brandon Powell, no. Trent Sherfield, no. Rondell Moore, no. Justin Watson, no. Chris Conley, no. Tutu Atwell, Steven Sims Jr., former Commander, former Washington football team guy. No. Jamison Crowder, I would consider bringing him back on a cheap deal. Catterall Hodge from Atlanta. I'm starting to talk about guys that I do remember Catterall Hodge because he had the game-winning overtime touchdown against the Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football from Kirk Cousins. Deontay Harty, no. Van Jefferson, no. Gunner, no. Josh Palmer from the Chargers had a solid season. No. River Kraft, who cooked Ben St. Juste in preseason, no. Sterling Shepard, no. Josh Palmer, no. River Kraft, no. Allen Robinson, who's with Detroit, no. Noah Brown, we'll see. Juju Smith-Schuster, no. DeAndre Carter, former Skin, no. Tyler Johnson, no. Marcus Valdes-Scantling. There was interest in him with Adam Peters. So, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Adam Peters brought him in. He would be a guy that can take the top off the defense. There was interest there before he signed with New Orleans. Dante Pettis, no. Jalen Reagor, heck no. Tim Patrick, no. James Prochet, no. I don't really need to name the rest of these guys. Dwayne Eskridge, who I liked him coming out of college, actually. No. Velus Jones, no. Kevontae Turpin is a restricted free agent. If he was an unrestricted free agent, I would definitely sign Kevontae Turpin. I would definitely sign Kevontae Turpin if he was an undrafted free agent. I really would. Who else have I not talked about? Keenan Allen. I talked about Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Robert Woods, DeAndre Hopkins, possibly yes. Deontay Johnson, heck no. Hollywood Brown, possibly. Robert Woods, no. I think that's really it, guys. I think that's really it for the most part. I think that's it. Let me just look through some of the numbers here and just look through and make sure that's it for the most part. Because I don't want to forget anybody. I definitely don't want to forget anybody on this list. Yeah, that's really it. So my top 3 targets, here are obviously T. Higgins. I think the majority of us can agree on that. Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin. Those are the top 3 for me. After that, DeAndre Hopkins I'm fine with. Hollywood Brown I'm fine with. Slayton I'm fine with in a certain capacity as a wide receiver number 4. But the only guys that I want as a wide receiver number 2 would be T, Amari, and DeAndre Hopkins. Chris Godwin. Those are the only 3 that I would be happy with if Adam Peters signed those guys as our wide receiver number 2. Other than that, Nick Westbrook-Akina can come in and be wide receiver number 3 or 4. Same thing with Hollywood Brown because he has speed to him, has familiarity with Cliff. DeAndre Hopkins, the familiarity with Cliff. So that's my take. So if there's any other free agent wide receivers that you guys have an opinion on and think that we should definitely go after, please let me know. The season is definitely tailored to helping Jaden Daniels. Of course, you have to shore up the offensive line. So we'll be making some free agent offensive lineman video. And then, of course, we'll get to the draft. We will get to the draft. But, of course, free agency comes first. And then after that is the draft in April. So we'll be doing both throughout the offseason until we get to either one. But I'm just going to start this week off with free agency for sure. So, all right, you guys let me know what you guys think. As always, hello, Commanders. Peace.